5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi there, I'm Adam Weiser.
And I'm Grayson Miller, and this is Muddy York.
This episode is about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not the hockey team that we all know today, but a minor league baseball team that played in Toronto from 1885 until 1967. The first reference to organized baseball in Toronto comes from 1859, when the Globe reported, "A group of young men in this city have organized themselves into a baseball club called the Canadian Pioneers. They practice every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. at the university grounds." In 1859, respectable gentlemen played cricket or lacrosse. Baseball was a disreputable American sport, a corrupt version of the British game of rounders. The first professional baseball team in TO was the Toronto Clippers, who played the 1876 season against teams from Markham, Guelph, Port Hope, Kingston, and London as a member of the Canadian Professional Baseball League, but the league folded after only one season. In 1885, a new team called the Toronto Canucks played one season in the newly formed Canadian League before shifting to the International League along with a team from Hamilton. During the 1885 season, the team made about $8,500 and paid their players a grand total of $4,231, roughly the same amount that Mike Trout gets paid for warming up. The team played at the Jarvis Street Lacrosse Grounds at Jarvis and Wellesley. Today it's Barbara Hall Park, but a year later, construction began on the first Toronto stadium built specifically for baseball. It was located just south of Queen Street, between Broadview and the Don River. Officially, it was known as the Toronto Baseball Grounds, but everyone called it Sunlight Park because it was located right next to the Sunlight Soap Works. It seated 2,200 people, and admission was $0.25. But for an extra 10 cents, you could sit in the reserve section, with seats that had backs, arms, and cushions. High luxury in those days. 2 years later, the team won its first title by claiming the pennant with a 65-26 record. Outfielder Mike Slattery stole 112 bases, but their star player was pitcher Edward Crane, who came with the awesome nickname of Cannonball. Cannonball Crane won 33 games that season. He also claimed the batting title with a .428 average. Unfortunately, the International League folded 3 years later.
In 1895, Toronto joined the Eastern League. 15 years later, it would change its name to the International League. Minor league classifications have changed over the years, but the International League was always considered to be in the top tier. Today, the Jays' AAA affiliate in Buffalo plays in that same league. Around this time, the team also started to be called the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto didn't have a professional hockey team yet, and the franchise that we know as the Leafs wouldn't get that name until Conn Smythe bought the team in 1927. Starting in 1897, the team played its home games at Hanlan's Point Stadium on Toronto Island. The team owner was Lowell Solomon, who just happened to own the Toronto Ferry Company that ran to the island as well as the amusement park at Hanlan's Point. So, Toronto baseball fans could travel to the games on Solomon's Ferry to watch Solomon's team play at Solomon Stadium, and on the way home, they could stop off for some fun at Solomon's amusement park. Now that's corporate synergy. Game tickets cost 50 cents and included a return ferry fee. What a great little business. You can find several pictures of Hanlan's Point Stadium posted online. There's also a picture of a game from 1897. You'll notice that the umpire is standing behind the pitcher instead of home plate. There's also no pitcher's mound. He's throwing from flat ground. That's how baseball was played back then. The season, Toronto finished second in the standings and earned the right to face the Syracuse Stars for the Steinert Cup Trophy donated by Steinert & Sons Piano Company. After 6 games, the series was tied 3-3. However, Toronto and Syracuse couldn't agree on where to play the deciding game, so the series was declared a tie.
In 1949, the team got a new mascot, Handlebar Hank, an old-timey baseball player wearing a Maple Leafs cap and a handlebar mustache extending out beyond his face. A gigantic image of Handlebar Hank towered over the entrance to Maple Leaf Stadium. Louis Cause, who wrote a book about the history of Toronto baseball when the Jays were created, had a good description of this period. It was a cold place. They used to advertise when it was 90 degrees out. Come down to Maple Leaf Stadium where it's 10 degrees cooler. Cool off here. Of course, in September or April, it was just cold. Opening day would always draw 18 or 20,000. They used to rope off the outfield to get more people in. You'd get a ground rule double if you hit the people leaning up against the fence. 2 years later, one of the great characters in the history of Toronto baseball entered the field when Jack Kent Cooke bought the team for $200K. Cooke was a huckster from the beaches. At age 14, he got a job selling encyclopedias door to door. At the end of his first day, he took home over $20 to his mother and said that was the proudest moment of his life. His teams did well in the standings, but he didn't just lure people for a ball game. Under Cooke, games were a spectacle, with a long list of special promotions and celebrity appearances. He had raffles, giveaways, ladies' nights, family nights, cheerleaders, fireworks. One night they gave away a pony. Another day, there was a diaper changing contest held at home plate. Players were drafted into a cow milking competition. If you brought a black cat to the stadium on Friday the 13th, you got free tickets. Legendary Toronto sports writer Milt Dunnell described him like this. Cooke always did the spectacular thing in the way of promotions. It wasn't long before there was a flagpole sitter in front of the Maple Leaf Stadium. He was going to sit up there until the Leafs got into first place or won the pennant or something like that. Havana was in the league at that time, and after the revolution, Fidel Castro was regarded as a savior. So Cooke had a Fidel Castro night and presented him with a tractor. In 1952, 446,000 fans showed up to watch a fourth-place team, and Cooke was named Minor League Executive of the Year. Cooke's finest moment probably came in 1951, when he integrated the Maple Leafs by signing Charlie White and Leon Day. He insisted, "I'm not crusading for minorities. I'm looking for someone who can do a better job than anyone else."
Author Morley Callahan wrote, "Far and wide, Toronto became known as the best minor league ball town on the continent. Yet, there's the rub. The impatient waiting for the day when Toronto baseball is in the big leagues. Jack Cooke's dream was to bring Major League Baseball team to Toronto. He tried to buy the Boston Braves, St. Louis Browns, the Philadelphia Athletics, and the Detroit Tigers. He was also a founding member of the Continental League that was supposed to become the third major league. But this plan fell apart when the American and National Leagues agreed to expand. The biggest obstacle to a major league team was the lack of a suitable place to play. Maple Leaf Stadium had been major league quality when it opened, but it was over 30 years old and there wasn't enough money to repair the plaster and cement that kept falling off. The last straw for Cooke came when City Council voted to renovate Exhibition Stadium as a football-only stadium. Anyone who went to see a Jays game before 1989 remembers the X as a football stadium doing a bad impression of a baseball stadium. Cooke finally sold the team in 1964. He would go on to own the Washington Redskins, the LA Lakers, and the LA Kings. So he didn't do too bad for himself. One of Cooke's last acts as an owner was to hire the team's second baseman to be the new manager. George Anderson, better known as Sparky Anderson, would go on to go to the Hall of Fame with 2,194 major league wins, but he began his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Cooke sold the team for $50,000, or 1/4 of what he had paid for it, which gives you an idea of the state of the business in 1964. The team was wildly successful on the field, winning championships in 1960, 1965, and 66, but attendance was plummeting. In 1965, the Hockey Leafs drew 495,000 fans for 35 home games. The Argos drew 173,000 fans for 7 home games, while the Baseball Leafs drew 118,000 fans for 56 home games. Wah, wah.
There are a lot of theories about why attendance declined. Some people argue that Cook's relentless quest for a major league franchise meant that people lost interest in a minor league team. Another factor was the growth of TV. Until then, the Maple Leafs had been the only way to see professional baseball in Toronto. During the 60s, you could watch Sandy Koufax, Mickey Mantle, and Carl Yastrzemski in your own living room. Why bother paying for a minor league game when you could watch the majors at home? Minor league teams from across North America began to fold right around this time. At the beginning of the 1967 season, the team owned $37,000 in back rent and had to cut a deal with the Toronto Harbor Commission just to start the season. The last game was played on September 4th. Toronto lost to Syracuse 7-2 in front of a crowd of just 802 people. After the season, the league owners approved the team's relocation to Louisville, Kentucky. In 1973, it moved again to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where the team is still playing as the Pawtucket Red Sox. By the end, no one really cared. Milt Dunnell said, "There was scarcely a sign." There were a few people voicing regrets when the Leafs folded, but it was mostly just old people crying from nostalgia. During their time in Toronto, the Maple Leafs won 11 International League titles, fourth most in league history, and 3 titles ahead of Montreal, which is, of course, the most important marker. 15 members of the team are in the Hall of Fame. Today, a team called the Toronto Maple Leafs plays in the Intercounty Baseball League, and you can catch their games throughout the summer at Christie Pitts. There's one more thing to add. If you go online, you'll find links to some YouTube videos. 2 different companies have posted a handful of newsreels depicting opening day at Maple Leaf Stadium. The clips are pretty short and they don't have any sound, but they give us a glimpse of how baseball was played in Toronto during the Roaring 20s and the Dirty 30s.
Appreciate you for listening to us, and we'll keep getting better. Feel free to let us know about any great Toronto resources to help us keep research up to date. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast, leave reviews, and feel free to shoot us your comments and questions at muddyyork@outlook.com. So that's muddy_york@outlook.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter at Toronto_history. This, guys, is a work in progress, and we'll be continually working on it, bringing great information and using the best resources we can find. I know that Adam and I are working on this project and just want to make it great for you guys. So feel free to reach out. Any suggestions, we'll keep improving. We hope you keep listening.